Please stand for the singing of Amita's Golden Chain of Love, found on page 30 of your white Gotha book. Please remain standing and turn to page 10 in your purple service book for the reading of the threefold refuge. Difficult is it to receive a human form. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Dharma of the Buddha. Now we hear it. If we do not cross over to the truth in the present life, in what life shall we cross over? Let us with sincerity and true reverence take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we together with all sentient beings awaken to their great way of enlightenment and to the unsurpassed intent, meet a Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we together with all sentient beings enter the storehouse of the Dharma, becoming like the wisdom ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we together with all sentient beings become units in true accord, in harmony with all things. The peerless, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rare to encounter, even in many hundreds and thousands of kalpas. Now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you. Please be seated. Today's Dharma message will be given by Minister's Assistant, Reverend Matt May.
Good morning. Before I begin, to recognize the tragedies that have befallen the cities of Gilroy, California, last Sunday, El Paso, Texas, yesterday, and Dayton, Ohio, overnight. I would like you to join me in a moment of silence as I will begin by ringing the bell. Good morning, and thank you for coming today. Today I want to talk about something that happens to me a lot. I travel a lot. I'm people are starting to know that I am a Buddhist and a minister's assistant, and so they often come to me in a lot of different environments and they ask me, what is this all about, in a lot of different ways. So this week I was in Chicago. I was facilitating a workshop at a conference. And during the lunchtime break, someone said, so this Buddhism thing, I've heard a lot about reincarnation. Okay, yeah, heard this one before, right? This is the kind of the first thing that gets associated to Buddhism. And they sort of asked me, what is this concept all about? And I have to say, sort of, first and foremost, that reincarnation is not like one of our concerns. Another question that I get, so how do you meditate? Well, interesting story. We have a different kind of view about that in Jodo Shinshu that we might get into later. But to talk about the concept of reincarnation, there's this, and this is a particularly part of the Tibetan traditions, I think, is where we hear about it the most. Like the idea that you have this full cup of water, and this cup is you, and that at the time that you die, this cup of water gets poured into like another cup of water, still the same water, but just moved on to somewhere else. And where we hear this, and sort of in particularly in Western culture, because all we really hear about it from is the Dalai Lama, right? That the Dalai Lama is the 14th of this same cup of water, right? That the Dalai Lama has been transmitted from body to body because he is a tulku. Tulku is basically someone who decides to continue living in this world lifetime after lifetime. And in Tibetan Buddhism, the idea is that at the moment that the Dalai Lama dies, because of all of this acquired karma that has come back to himself, that the Tibetan monks are going to be able to find him in the next body. So basically they look for someone who's born around the time that the Dalai Lama dies, and then try to find this new version of the Dalai Lama. So the 15th Dalai Lama will be searched for. And it's kind of interesting the way that Tibetan Buddhism treats this, in that if the Dalai Lama is cremated, one of the signs is that the direction in which the wind blows off the cremains of the Dalai Lama will indicate the direction in which the new Dalai Lama will be born. So they might just sort of map out, the ashes flew to the southwest, so maybe somebody that's born will be the Dalai Lama in that direction. They can also see visions in dreams. So the more advanced monks in the Tibetan tradition will say, "Oh, I saw a birthmark on a boy," and then they'll search for somebody with that birthmark. Or there is a lake known as Oracle Lake in Tibet, where the lake is said to have visions of who will be the next Dalai Lama that they can then follow. And then the new one is identified by being presented with a set of artifacts, some of which belong to the previously living Dalai Lama, and some of which that don't. And so the story of the 14th Dalai Lama was that he found the mala beads, the onenju, and the bell of the previous Dalai Lama. And that is the way that he became the 14th Dalai Lama, right? Obviously, in Jodo Shinshu, not a lot of reincarnation going on there. So, but there continues to be this conversation around rebirth, and sometimes reincarnation is used as a metaphor for the idea of something continuing. In fact, the vision that Shinran Shonin receives so that's in the center on the far left panel, that is Kannon of Avalokiteshvara, that appears to Shinran Shonin after almost 100 days of meditation, and says that I will appear to you as a woman, and that woman turns out to be Eshini. Now, in the doctrine of Jodo Shinshu, is Eshini the next Avalokiteshvara, or is it an analogy or a reference to Shinran Shonin receiving someone who helps him along his spiritual journey? And so so I managed to tell this story in less time than it took me to tell you. You know more about this stuff, so I have like more that I can fit into the conversation. But of course, then the next question is, well, that's because of karma, right? I'm like, these things get a little fuzzy, right? Because in Hinduism, the concept of karma is, well, to give you an example, I brought a rubber band, right? That it's cause and effect, right? If I take this rubber band and I wrap it around my wrist and I snap it, ow, what I do comes back to me every single time until I pull it really hard and it breaks, right? That's the concept of karma in Hinduism. And in some traditions of Buddhism, it's very similar. Like in the Tibetan traditions, usually more toward the Theravada, the early traditions of Buddhism, that's the idea. What I do is going to come back to me. And it might be like immediate, or it might be over a multiple of lifetimes where I'm reincarnated. I may be reincarnated into a different realm, that might be my punishment, that I might be born into a realm of animals, or into the Buddhist concept of hell, or I can be elevated into this idea of, or we've all heard about we just had Bonadori, so the land of hungry ghosts, that we can be born into a lower area. Or we can become a fighting spirit, a demigod, or a god, and be moved up into this. But the idea of karma, to me, in Buddhism is more like if I took the rubber band and went like this, right? Did I hit somebody? I'm doing this stuff all the time, right? I am doing, like, karma is action, right? I am doing it, and it doesn't immediately impact myself, right? What I am doing, as we say like when we talk about the golden chain, what I do impacts everyone around me. My happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. So the key message of Buddhism, as far as karma goes, is that we're all in this together. The concept of interdependence. We are responsible for our actions because they impact other people. And so to talk about this with novices is kind of like, because karma, they see karma on tip jars and things like that, that it's like I have to do this because it comes back to me. And that's the difference, I think, between the earlier traditions of Buddhism, Theravada and Mahayana. The idea in Mahayana Buddhism, of which Jodo Shinshu is a part, is that we all have to become enlightened. That it isn't just, I get this thing, oh, I have attained all of this karma and I have it for myself and I have perfected this wisdom and compassion, and now I'm going to keep it to myself and I'm going to go into a desert or some mountain somewhere and just live the rest of my life being calm. For us, the idea of becoming a Buddha, of becoming an enlightened being, is really hard. That we in Jodo Shinshu don't treat this as something that, like, oh, I am going to be the next Amida Buddha. The reason that Amida Buddha is in the center of this Naijin is that Amida is perfection. It is so unfathomable, inconceivable. It is beyond our ability to understand what perfect wisdom and perfect compassion are. And so we are here to receive that, to understand what that is. And in that, in my experience, is the idea that we know how far we each have to go. That's a lot harder to do over a lunch, get people to understand the intricacies of this. But it also kind of leads to the core teaching of Jodo Shinshu, which is that Amida is here, that Amida is here to bring us to a place that's outside of these realms, where we have sort of our own emotions and our own frustrations and our own struggles to get by, into this pure land where we don't have these things to worry about. It's a very different teaching from a lot of other traditions of Buddhism. And we know from this, we don't fear what that next life is. That we think about how we are today and how we can get better, how we can take care of ourselves tomorrow. That we can understand that things can flow from day to day. We can have a great day and a terrible day, and things change over our lifetimes. But over this period of time, we are always able to understand that we're part of a larger system, and that in that larger system, we're all going through some kind of suffering. But there is one sense of rebirth that I want to suggest to you that I think is more practical, is something that we can wrap our heads around in the here and now. When we lose a teacher, when we lose someone who has taught us something, and that could be a parent, it could be anybody that has shared something with you. What is the phrase that we use to talk about their memory? So-and-so lives on. Right? The actions, those karmic behaviors, don't just stop with you honking at someone at a stop sign. It's not just these like little instantaneous things. These actions accrue over your entire life, and they don't just stop when you stop, right? What you thought was important, that you have transmitted to others, the way that you have taught people, is living on. Right? We are constantly being reborn, not just individually, but as a society. And when we stop thinking about where's my glass of water going to go, and we start thinking about how much is the ocean going to be polluted when this glass of water goes back into it, what you do now matters. And that to me is the message of karma in Buddhism. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for attending today, and have a lovely Sunday.
Thank you, Reverend Matt, for a very meaningful message today for all of us. Please stand and together recite the pledge found on your handout. I don't have one right now. So